Good morning, everyone. My name is Natalia Morales. I'm a second-year chemistry major here at CSUN, and today I'll be explaining the pathway method. The pathway method has 5 components. The first component is objectives. So when you encounter a chemistry problem, you're going to write down what the problem is asking you to find. And the second step is the conceptual check. The conceptual check is based on the objectives that you've written down. So you're going to look back at your objectives and write down any of the concepts that you need to know. This includes definition, chemical principles, and formulas. This will help you kind of give you a small refresher on what you need to know to proceed with the problem. It would also help you to stop and tell yourself, oh, I need to actually go back to my notes and, fill in this small gap that I have in between these connections, in between these concepts. The third step is the given. So you're going to write down what the problem gives you, which includes numerical values, scenarios, formulas, etc. And to make sure to write down the symbolic notations that correspond to it. And the fourth step, which is the main spotlight of this method, this is called the pathway. This pathway enables you to go back and forth from the information that you are given to your objective. The objective are usually concepts that you are exposed to in your lectures. And so these objectives are going to work along with your new information given, your new scenarios, and you guys are going to establish visual patterns and step-by-step patterns to go back and forth in between this new scenario and your concepts. So you're going to take these concepts into light and form your own pathway and see how you know and see if you know how to apply these concepts to new scenarios, new information, etc. And lastly, you have your answer. So from the pathway, how are you going to use this pathway to approach your answer? So let's use a chemistry topic of lipid and reactant. Here, you're going to write down the objective. I'll guide you guys through the pathway method by using one objective. So one objective is lipid and reactant. And so that's one objective. The second step is the conceptual check. The conceptual check is limited reactant. So this is the reactant that limits the amount of product in the chemical reaction. And so you have to find the reactant, label your reactants, which is HCl and oxygen. That is from your given. Those are your two elements. And so to find the chemical that limits the proceeding of chlorine, you need to get your amount of reactants and convert that into grams of Cl2 so that you're able to see which reactant makes the fewest amount of grams of Cl2, and that will give you guys your limited reactant. So looking at your given and your objectives and your conceptual check, I was able to see the relationship between those two, limited reactant and the reactants that were given to me. And so one of the various pathways you can use is stoichiometric pathway. One of the variables is the given. So the given, we have grams of HCl and grams of oxygen. We're going to use these quantitative amounts and go to grams of Cl2. I was able to decipher grams of Cl2 because looking at the theoretical yield, this is the numerical value of the limited reactant and how much limited reactant has been made. And so looking at the percent yield, we need to find theoretical yield in terms of grams of Cl2 because actual yield is given in grams of Cl2. We need to find theoretical yield in grams of Cl2. And so we need to get our quantitative given amounts, convert them into grams of Cl2, and the fewer amount of grams of Cl2 is the theoretical yield. And theoretical yield, going back to the concept, is our second objective, and it means the maximum amount of product that can be made based on the amount of limited reactant. And so, using stoichiometric relationships, we're going to use mole ratio, molar masses, and find which reactant makes the least amount of grams of Cl2. So limited reactant is HCl. We covered our first objective. The theoretical yield is 61.35 grams of Cl2 because it made the most amount of Cl2. And then for percent yield, we're going to plug in our theoretical yield amount and we get 80.35. And so that's how I was able to find the connection between all of these three concepts. And so our last step is Does our answer make sense? Is our actual yield less than theoretical? And is yes. And we were able to use the right amount of significant figures. So I hope that helped with how to use the pathway and how these three variables in chemistry were able to come together through objective, given, and conceptual check. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day.